So I'll start by introducing Seth Dotterer from Conductor. So Conductor is kind of the company in search engine marketing technology, and they represent companies such as FedEx, BestBuy, Angie's List, and from here, Seth.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to come down here so I can see my screen here, if that's okay. I'm really excited to come here to talk to you. As we mentioned before, the businesses that we deal with a lot tend to be large businesses. They tend to be corporate businesses. And one of the things that they struggle with all the time is how they can sort of reinvent how their marketing works. And then we see startups who are getting involved with search engine technology or search engine optimization early, and they have an opportunity to start from the ground up and to build their businesses. You see companies like TripAdvisor that are built entirely for the concept of being found by search engines. And when you're starting a company, whether that's you're starting a company or whether you're trying to reinvent that inside of a company and keep that entrepreneurship in through there, it's something that we love to talk about. So just a little bit about me. I work for SEO technology companies, Conductor. We have an 11-person marketing team there where we market technology to large retailers, business-to-business companies to help them be found on the internet. About me personally, I'm 41. I have 3 kids. I live in Westchester. We have 2 pugs and a new Newfoundland, which is very exciting, very, very challenging. And I recently discovered a hobby that I'd let go for about 20 years, which is fish keeping, so keeping aquariums. And 20 years ago, how I learned about that was I went to the fish store, I asked the guy, what do I do? And I bought whatever he told me to do. I said, sure, you tell me what to do, I'll buy it, awesome. This next rounder, again, I don't know if anybody, does anyone here, keep fish at all? I'm the lonely guy, all right. So it's become, all right, you're good, awesome. It's become much more expensive, I realized, since in the last 20 years. But also the way you learn about it changed completely. I didn't go to the local pet store and say, hey, what do you got? I didn't call up a manufacturer and say, hey, what should I be doing? I went online and I started to research myself. What should I build? What should I be looking for? What are the right kind of fish I want to keep? And it completely changed how I was thinking about it. And rather than spend 15 minutes cramming down all the SEO technical side of things, I want to use that story to try and think about how successful businesses, and I'll show you just a few, are changing how they think about customer acquisition. So if we can move forward for just a second. There's really been a shift, a monumental shift, as long as I've been a marketer, from that outbound push to an inbound push. So you think about the kinds of marketing that we used to do, the broadcast, the Super Bowls, the let me get out and in your face. And there are a couple things that have changed in that. 86% of people now skip TV ads. How many people have a DVR or use a DVR functionality at home, right? Everybody. If you move forward just a second. 44% of direct mail is never even opened when it arrives in our mailbox. There's a new startup called Outbox. Has anybody heard of this? Where they come, they get your mail, they take it out of the mailbox, they throw away all the junk, they scan the important stuff and deliver to you digitally. Completely changing how marketers are able to interact with you. I can't send you a direct mail piece anymore. 200 million people on the do not call list. Now this was one of the marketers' favorite items, right? Is call you when you're eating dinner and try and get in front of your face. No longer, 200 million people opting out of that. And how we spend our time is drastically changing. So this is over the last 5 years. What's the percent change in how we spend our time? And there's a 121% increase in using the internet, 5% increase in watching TV, negative 15% on radio, negative 26% on newspapers, and negative 18% on actually reading magazines that are not online. Pew just came out with some research that had a devastating impact on the amount of revenue that these magazines were getting in the last year. They're just slashed completely. That's because we're not spending time online anymore. So you think this would be great for online marketers? We just go out there, we do that. But online marketing has its own challenges. One, we see advertisement sites, we click away immediately. That's obviously being branded. I want to move away. And email, which has become one of the online marketers' key tools, I'm going to broadcast to you. ExactTarget did a study where 91% of people opted into a list, got what they wanted, and then opted right back out again. Saying, I'm not going to engage with you on your terms from a marketing perspective. I'm going to engage on them on my own terms. So marketing has switched from this outbound activity to this inbound activity. And the question is, no longer can you broadcast to the right audience, but that your audience is going to start having conversations, and are you there to pick up the conversation on the other end of the line on it? And the good news is there are 3 billion of these things happening every single day. 3 billion times a day, someone goes into a search engine, types in, I would like to find something, and directly expresses their intent to purchase something, to find out some more information, to engage with that brand. All right? So, and it's not only the number that are out there, right? It's almost always the number one driver of search traffic. 50% of all traffic for to most companies out there, and this is again, I can't see exactly who did this one on this, but 50% of all traffic is coming from Google or Bing organically. 20% of them are actually the direct type in, and then all other things, whether that's Facebook, Yahoo, StumbleUpon, Pinterest and Twitter, which we hear so much about, 0.7% of all traffic, right? It's not just how much is coming there, it's also how well they convert. Here's a study that HubSpot showed the leads that come to a B2B site. So if you're an entrepreneur thinking about starting a B2B company, how well do they convert? Where are the marketing sources that I can invest in? SEO, or natural search engine optimization, converts at the same rate of people typing in your name into your website and coming to your website. It converts at the exact same rate. The interesting thing here is it double paid search, 4 times social media, and then again, about 7 times all other outbound materials. So it's key. Businesses have got to find a way to get a hold of this. And we're all set, all right. So the question is, how do you actually go ahead and participate in those conversations? And so these are some of the companies we work with. And I gotta be honest, when we founded our company, we thought that we'd be building software so that there'd be like 50-person SEO teams where they'd be all attacking this problem because there's that much traffic, and they'd be going out there and it'd be like all these people who knew canonical tags and H1 tags and title tags, and if none of that means any sense, it's okay. You don't need to know that, right? But what turned out to be was companies were not investing in SEO people like that. They weren't building out 50-person teams. They were getting their entire companies to actually be the SEO people, to engage in creating content. So as you are starting and thinking about how can I drive traffic to my website, don't think about SEO as a function, all right? We're gonna think about making that an entire part of an organization. If you look at these companies, Angie's List has 1 SEO person, all right? FedEx has 30,000 employees, I think, at the last time. They have 3 SEO people to do their jobs. Capital One, 2 people, all right, to go and do all of the SEO for these giant organizations. When you think about that as an entrepreneur, if you're starting a company and you think about being able to capture the #1 source of driving traffic, I can invest some of my time, right? I can put 50% of my time into SEO, and then I can have 50% of the resources that Angie's List has going out against that. So there's huge opportunities for people who are either starting companies or reinventing companies inside their organizations. And so when you think about SEO, again, rather than teaching the technical nature, although I'm happy to have conversations on all of those pieces, I want you to think about the most successful people who engage in SEO are not the technical SEO guys, they're the Tony Robbins guys. The guys who can get everybody else in their company to think about, how is this content I'm writing going to actually engage with our customers? There's a merchandiser that's out there and they're picking the terms that they're going to put on the front of their website. We have one customer, it's an apparel customer, and I'm not going to call out who it is, right? And they use that term, apparel, in their website. They said, okay, here's our youth apparel section. How many times do you think that's searched for every month? Maybe 80,000 times top. But if they use the right terms, if they can go out and investigate what's the search volumes and what are people searching for, and they can start using boys' clothes, girls' clothes, children's clothes, all of a sudden those search volumes go from 80,000 to 200,000 to 500,000 to 800,000 a month. So if you can get the SEO person in your organization enabling that merchandiser to think about it when they're creating content, you can move it a lot further along. Because all content, when you're thinking about this, when you're designing what your homepage looks like, what the content is, how your users are going to integrate with comments, they go through 4 stages, basically. Deciding what you're going to write about, creating that, publishing that, and then promoting it. And we're going to hear some good stuff later on some of the later stages on that as well. But SEO doesn't get involved at the end. If you hit that again, this is really how most people think about SEO. Is I'm going to design my website, I'm going to make it beautiful, and then at the very end, I'm going to call in some guy to do SEO on it. And that's the exact wrong way to think about it. Think about natural search at this start of the phase, in the ideation stage, where you can name your company, where you can think about the content you're creating. And when you can do that, it has a dynamic impact on the actual ability to move who's searching for you and who's finding you as well. It's too hard to sit next to everybody in your organization and tell them they're about to do the wrong thing. So you have content writers, you're going to be like, okay, don't write it. Don't use that term. You're making a mistake here. Don't use that, you forgot this technical term. So you have to make sure that you can have a whole team that's moving forward with that. Your whole team is pulling in the same direction. So as you're starting your companies, as you're moving out and reestablishing companies, find ways to get everybody involved in the same way. SEO has to be a cross-company effort. It has to be something that is not just the SEO function, but is the paid search function. Hey, if I'm spending an inordinate amount of money competing to show up in paid search, what would happen if I took some of those terms and was able to rank for them naturally? It's cross-team there instead of other. But it's beyond that. What if my PR team started using the phrases that I want to get found in the boilerplates of their press releases? All of a sudden, I'm out there generating content that uses the terms that I want to be found by, and those can drive that traffic back as well. So you have to think of SEO not as a single function, but rather as a distributed function with someone coordinating it in the beginning. So in large companies, we have an SEO center of excellence. And those 2 people, those 3 people, those are folks who interact with the rest of the organizations. They'll talk to the product stakeholders when they're naming their products and saying, how do consumers interact with us? What do they call them? How do they interact? What are the terms they use? For the content team, when they're writing content, they'll be able to evaluate that real time and say, hey, these are the mistakes you're making. Here's how often you're using these phrases. Here's a suggested keyword that you may not even know about that your competitors are both bidding on in paid search. Maybe you should write an article about it and get some of that content as well. Clearly, I'm biased on this one, but technology can help you do that as well. So when you create reports, when you create audits, when you're able to share those things automatically, it gets that out through the organization much faster. Life Technologies is a customer of ours. They did that, and what they ended up doing is those 2 SEO people that they had, they rolled out and started reporting to their global market development people, 10 people, their digital marketing managers, 8 people, their product managers, 6 people, their content strategists, 3 people, and their web intelligence managers, 3 people, and then they have the best title ever, the creator of Unmatched Customer Connection, who is in there as well, who is someone who is tasked with finding out where their customers were not connecting with them and creating content around them. So they took those 2 people who started off as technical people in a closet somewhere doing audits. Everybody thought they were smart, but they had no idea what they did, and made sure that the entire organization was now leveraging that information, being able to take actions on it and start getting traffic. I can't share Life Technologies performance, but Under Armour is also a customer that did that. And this has a couple of animations in there. They had a 71% growth in the transactions that they had on their website just by expanding that beyond a centralized team and pulling that throughout the organization, and a 62% growth in revenue from natural search. Now, for a large company like Under Armour, that is just amazing. It is absolutely transformational because they have a lot of revenue already that comes from natural search. All right? They scaled their keyword by 16% and a 10% increase in keywords ranking in what we call those hyper traffic, those top 1 to 3 positions. Because everywhere, a little tip there going away, the most valuable opportunity you have in natural search is when you rank number 11 in Google. Because of all of the millions of pages on the internet, you're almost relevant. So with a little bit of pushes, you can start getting into that traffic area. So they were able to move a 10% increase on those and move them forward onto page 1. So I'm happy to talk about the individual technical things they want as well as all the detailed, but moving forward, I encourage you all, as you start your businesses, as you land in places where you're thinking about developing SEO as part of your business, think about the opportunities and the objectives that you're going after in the very beginning, which is I want to match with my customer. I want to make sure that the rest of my organization is using the terms that my customers understands, and that it's baked into our processes so that we're always thinking about when our customer starts that conversation. When those 3 billion people a day decide to go and type into a search engine and say, I'm looking for something, that you're there to pick up the other part of the conversation. So I have my contact information again. I'll be around anything else. That's it for me. So thank you very much for helping me.